Welcome back, everyone. In this video we're going to just show you the basic strokes of the bamboo, and we're going to work on this chart here of all the kind of basic strokes, and this is what you're going to need to turn in to me before you start your big final bamboo painting on a large sheet of paper, which I'll have hanging up in the front of the room. Because I want to know that you've got those basic strokes done and you have a little confidence in your brush and you've had some practice with the ink before you start that final picture. So if this is a picture of our bamboo, the things that we need to think about are the leaves, the stalks, the little nodes in between the stalks, and the branches in between. So this picture is in your packet that I've had made for you. Also in your packet is, of course, the bamboo stalks. Okay, a couple different kinds. The nodules here, the nodes, and then of course the leaves, or sorry, the branches and the leaves. Okay, remember, Sumi-e painting or Chinese brush painting is all about value. So right down here I've got a value scale. It says value scale. In this space below marked make a value scale by mixing ink and water. So here's my black ink, here's my empty space or white, and then each layer I've made a little bit darker. Here are the stalks. It says in these three boxes make 3 bamboo stalks, one with a continuous line, one with your brush held horizontal, and one with 2 values. Okay, and you can all read, you know, new leaves, oldest leaves, and then an example of branches. So all of that is included in the packet, and you're supposed to do a nice, neat job on here. If you need to, practice on a blank scrap of paper that I'll have sitting at the side of the room, or a small piece of paper before you do this. This should be your idea of your final project turning in before you get to the next spot. This should not be sloppy. It should be neat, nicely done, everything in the right place. Okay, because I have to cut these papers up specifically to the right size for the photocopier. Okay, so the things you should have: your caddy with your straw and your ink. Make sure to close your ink cap when you're done. A cup of clean water, cup for empty water, your palette, and a little bitty water for you to kind of control your own water. And of course, your paper towels and your brushes. Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm actually going to use this nylon bristle brush. I've found this one works really well for kind of the continuous line and for this horizontal brush stroke. So I'm going to start by making my color mixing here. All right, and I call it color mixing because we're going to think of it as a monochromatic color scale. So take your straw. I've got my straw off the page here. Take your straw, cover the end, put your new ink on your clean palette. Okay, there's my new ink. And I'm going to get some clean, fresh water, and you're going to put clean, fresh water onto your palette as well, and mix those carefully as you go through your painting. So here's my clean, fresh water that actually isn't all that clean and fresh because I've got just a hair of ink in it from my last session. So here we go. White, obviously you're going to leave that blank. The next one, you're going to paint in just a little bit darker. So here's my little bit darker, and I do apologize for the distortion on the lens here, but in order to hold my brush straight up and down like you're supposed to, I needed to have the camera coming from the other direction. So here's my very faint difference of gray. Okay, very light gray. I'm just going to tip a little teeny bit in and get a little bit darker like that, and you can kind of see how the ink runs together there, and it's kind of hard to keep the two separate once they've met. So here's my next one, a little bit darker, and you can hardly even see that difference. So be very careful that, number one, you have a difference, but at the same time it's not too big, not too little. You want to be able to see the difference between the two, and again, you can totally see how that ink is just completely running all over the place. So you're going to have to be careful as far as mixing your inks together and keeping your water clean. So there's one that's just a little bit darker. And then you should have a neutral gray, or the color that you would think to be a little bit grayer. You can use a paper towel because that's really dark already. It looks darker in the video, but I'm going to just take a little paper towel and kind of blot that out and then redistribute the ink a little bit so it's a little bit lighter. If you need a paper towel to kind of help you control, you can. And here's another darker shade yet. Okay, and these are tones, or when I called them in first grade, I called them shades because we were adding true, black in. They often refer to them as tones in Sumi-e painting rather than shades. You can think of it either way you'd like. The word for me at this point is not going to matter so much, whether you call it a shade or a tone. Since we're working with just ink, they call it a tonal manner rather than shades. So, and there's my final black. Now, because of the quality of the camera, it's going to be hard for you to see the subtle variation between there. But you should have white ever so lightly getting to gray, gray ever so lightly getting to darker, pure black ink there at the bottom. Okay. Once you've got that done, you're going to move on to the next boxes over here. Now I'm going to be grading each of these sections separately, so you need to do a good job in each section. Here's my making the bamboo with a continuous stalk. I'm going to start vertical brush, just like always. All right, and I'm going to start kind of on a diagonal, pull straight up, and then lift my brush ever so slightly back down. Pull up, lift up ever so slightly to the side, and push back down. And you can notice how it's all about pulling up. It's the pressure on your brush. Okay, remember, it's all about value, harmony of value, and pushing down and the pressure of your brush. And that pressure of your brush is going to give you the variety of line, variety of spaces and shapes. So you want to practice your pushing down and your variety of pressure. Now this is the holding your brush totally horizontal and doing the stopping and starting. My brush is a little bit too full of water there. Okay, so here we go. Push down, lift up ever so slightly, press down to finish. Press down to start, lift up ever so slightly, press down to finish. And these brushes don't hold a lot of ink, so you might have to stop and start, because they're not true Sumi-e brushes. Okay, so there's my bamboo stalk with the starting, stopping, starting, stopping, starting, stopping, with the brush held horizontal. Now I'm going to do the next one, two or more inks. So I'm going to get a lighter version of ink, just like I did on my first one here. I'm going to do a horizontal brush hold. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. Brush down, hold up. Too much moisture, down, pull up, press down. It's really hard to control that moisture. Okay, so there's my kind of nodes here and there. Okay, and now I'm going to go back with the point of my brush. Now this is not true Sumi-e style here, but I'm going to go back since we're working with substandard brushes. And I'm going to add the edge here with the second color, or the second value, so that we've got the two or more colors or values. So you've got the dark value on one side and the lighter value on the other side. All right, next you're going to put on your new leaves right here, and the new leaves should be pointing up. Press down hard and up. The old leaves should be pointing kind of almost diagonally down, and the oldest leaves usually point from top all the way down like that. Okay, then put your grouped leaves, 3 to 5 leaves. So I'm going to do an imaginary branch coming up here, and I'm going to do one. Notice the direction I'm going to be pushing or pulling my brush this direction. 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 3 for my 3-leafed bunch. Branch, 1, 2, 3, and my last one. Notice I'm going to be pulling down. 1, 2, and 3. And I'll put my branch back in over there. Okay, so I've got those 3 leaves. Of course, it's a little lower than I would have liked, but that works. Then my looking from below, so that means you're down, looking up from below, so the node is going to go down, over, and back up. Looking from straight on is the S curve, depending on what side you do it. So I'm going to start here, down, over, and down this side. Looking from above, down, would be starting up, over, and back down. And then the other, there's a bunch of different kinds in your packet. One of them is a diagonal swoop, like if the branch or the node were on the side, it would go over, down, and up, something like that. And the last space here is the branches, and of course this is in your packet, and this one kind of looks like the branch is coming off at different sections, and of course you can refer to your packet for how to do this and where your branches could be, should be, would be breaking off. And of course you're just going to take this to the level of, you could even just look outside the window here in class and see how the branches break off, and you could use that as an example too. When you're done with all of them and you think you've got all of them perfectly, wonderfully done, you're going to make sure you put your name on, and I would actually put that on at the beginning of class. Mr. Lundgren is my name. And then put your homeroom teacher, whoever it is, Munseth, Barton, whoever or whatever class this is, put your homeroom teacher there. And when you're done, bring it up and I'll grade all of them. Okay? So this is what it should look like when you're finished and you get all graded. Clean up your brushes, put your brushes away. Make sure that when you're done with your caddy, you take your caddy and you take your ink and you put that ink away, screwing the cap on nice and tight. And make sure that you wash your palette with a little bit of soap so the palettes are nice and clean for the next one, or for the next person. Okay, so there's how to do the final example of the sheet.